Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Unbiased Truth with your host Branson. I'm here to talk about the recent developments going on related to the Iran war, JD Vance's recent trip to Turning Point USA conference, which had very low attendance, and Trump's ongoing recent feud with the papacy. And we'll see how that all turns out. But first, I want to start talking about the ongoing developments with the Iran war. We're going to listen to Young Turks break it down just for a little bit of background information.
Iran has announced that their blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is over, at least for now. Maybe forever. Maybe it'll be back on by the weekend. We're not sure. But the stock market is very excited. The oil markets around the world are very excited. And President Donald Trump is saying that beyond just that, we also will be retrieving Iran's enriched uranium, maybe in exchange for money, maybe not in exchange for money. There's a lot of lack of clarity about some of the details here, but we're going to talk about it. But notice that I said that Iran's blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is over. Ours apparently is not. We are still blockading Iranian ships and ships affiliated with the Iranian regime from going through the Strait of Hormuz. And so we're going to have all the details and the very significant points of non-agreement that remain.
I think Trump likes to keep everything up in confusion as to kind of have people guessing what his next moves or motives are, essentially, and to keep everyone in the dark about what truly is going on, essentially. And as we're going to find out, Trump said that he recently announced today that Iran agreed to hand over all of its nuclear capabilities and its nuclear dust and uranium particles. But Iran, right afterward, came out and said that they never agreed to that, and that is as sacred as the soil of Iran itself. So let's keep on getting into it.
But Cenk, first, what are your 2 cents?
So there are facts in this case that make you believe that maybe the war is close to over. And then there are also facts in this situation that makes you think, oh no, we're gonna do a surprise attack tomorrow. So which one is it? Well, let John give you the facts and then we'll talk it through, because which one it is it just couldn't be more important.
I also want to say that Trump in the past has had like surprise attacks and moves always. I mean, several times in negotiations, twice with the Iranian regime, once last year and once earlier this year. He'll use negotiations in effort to move ships and supplies and resources into the region, and then he'll just strike back in a moment when they're unprepared. And so I believe he's going to do that. I believe he's not going to settle for anything less than a total victory, no matter how deep into this rabbit hole we keep on going. And it's already been confirmed that he's moved several thousands of troops, thousands and thousands, into the area, along with more ships and naval capabilities. So,
because if we go back to attacking them, it'll be a debacle of epic proportions. And I've got it at 50-50. So let's talk it through.
Yeah, it's so funny because every development I've said feels like it's just a pretext for us to launch an invasion or something. This is the first time I wasn't going to predict that. And meanwhile, Cenk is pretty confident. So we'll get into the evidence. So let's talk about what the different parties to this kind of ceasefire/truce are claiming. And we're also going to give you updates on what appears to actually be happening on the ground. So first of all, Iran did announce this morning in response to Donald Trump posting on Truth Social that they will lift their blockade of the Strait of Hormuz for the remainder of the ceasefire. It had already sort of been a part of the ceasefire that the blockade was going to be lifted, but in reality, it really hadn't been. So supposedly now it's double plus verified that it's going to be lifted for right now. But the ships are going to have to take a coordinated route that Iran agrees to. And I've seen maps of how that route compares to the status quo before the war was started. And it is a longer journey through the Strait of Hormuz that sort of cuts between 2 Iranian islands rather than using like the vast bulk of the strait. I don't know why exactly that is or what that means going forward, but it is.
I mean, Iran already stated that they were going into this, essentially going to have to toll ships going through this naval traffic into the Persian Gulf. So I believe it was $2 million per ship. So they've already charged several ships like that, even though there has been a couple European ships that have passed through the strait and Chinese vessels as well. But it looks like for the future, Iran will continue to dominate the strait and Trump create an issue which never was before.
They changed, so bear that in mind. Trump has also stated that Iran either already has or will be removing the mines from the Strait of Hormuz. And if I was the captain of an oil tanker, I would want to know which of those two it was before I started going through, because I feel like it's one or the other, and they're not the same vis-a-vis hull integrity. But anyway, so that's good news. We agree on some stuff. The blockade mostly is gone, although our blockade is continuing. So that's good. Bad news, though. The IRGC does not seem to be happy about this. So they are not the ones that negotiated this. It's the non-Revolutionary Guard Iranian leadership. But the IRGC said that it would decide which vessels are allowed to cross the Strait of Hormuz, despite Iranian government pledges that their waterway has been unblocked, in a sign that the regime is currently divided, or that we don't know for sure who will have power coming out of this. And the issue with that is that they're the ones with the rockets and drones and stuff. So I feel like their input matters. Now, Trump has also claimed that not only is the status quo changed, that now ships can go through, but that Iran has agreed to never close the strait down again, which he has said, and I have not seen any indication that Iran has ever agreed to that, let alone the IRGC. And importantly, CNN is reporting like an hour before we're going live that ships are not moving through the Strait of Hormuz as of right now. And bear in mind that Iran has threatened to retaliate if the blockade that the United States is keeping on them were to be continued. And one of the best ways they could do that would be to close down from their end the Strait of Hormuz. But don't worry, Cenk.
It's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. Right now, you've got two paths. You can keep.
Trump is saying that they've agreed to never do that again. So why don't we cover the Strait stuff, and then we'll get to the nuclear material after that. But what do you make of the situation with the Strait of Hormuz?
Yeah, so there's two different realities out there now. One is the mainstream media reality where they say the war is almost over. We believe Donald Trump, and by the way, it's not crazy to say that. If they were totally wrong, I'd just tell you. I'm not shy about criticizing mainstream media. But Iran did say they were opening up the Strait of Hormuz, so there is reason for optimism. So yes. I'm not totally dismissing that world at all.
Today was actually the first day in a while where I thought Trump was onto something, and that Iran said it was opening up the strait and allowed a couple vessels to pass through. And then Trump declared that Iran agreed to give up its nuclear capabilities, which of course is most likely a fabrication. And Iran later came out and declared that it never did that. But it looks like we were moving into a good direction overall. And if Trump did pull that off, taking away their nuclear capabilities, I'd be dumbfounded. I would really be amazed that he managed to pull it out. That'd be an incredible win. You know, even though some countries deserve to have nukes, I don't think Iran should, essentially. But after all the shit that we've been doing, they're going to definitely want one after this, no doubt.
And then, but part of that world, John, is, and we've basically won. They're going to end their enrichment program. They're going to open up the Strait of Hormuz. They're basically going to give us what we want. And then there's a second reality out there in this multiverse that we live in. And that one is, no, Iran has definitely largely won this war. So we've conceded behind the scenes, and Trump is just doing bluster, right? There's actually a third reality, which is none of that is true. Both sides are restocking as we speak. And
I think that's the most clear option, is that this is going to lay the groundwork for a part 2 greater Iran war, probably most likely a ground assault, and that Iran is stocking up. And China already recently gave some air defenses to Iran. They transferred it. And of course, we moved some supplies. We moved South Korea's air defenses, that's THAAD system, I believe, THAAN, THAAD aerial defense system from South Korea over to Israel. So now South Korea is pretty much virtually mostly undefended, very undefended compared to what it was before. And they're not too happy about that. But China did the same and moved it to Iran, moved their own system to Iran. So it looks like they're bulking up, they're preparing, we're preparing, and we're going to see what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
And then re-engaging in the war is imminent, okay? So things are too complicated and nuanced right now for me to tell you, I know which world we live in, okay? So, and that's partly our job, but this is a very rare situation where it's muddled enough that it is not crystal clear. Normally everything's crystal clear. Who has more money, they win. Israel gets their way 100% of the time. We move on. We're right about it like literally every time because it's not complicated. This is complicated. So now my best sense is, I'll tell you what is not possible and what is. So Donald Trump saying that Iran has basically surrendered and they're going to give up their entire enrichment program and they're going to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and there's going to be no toll and we get to block them anytime we want. That is definitely not true. Iran had the advantage.
There's gonna be no total victory out of this, like short of dropping a nuke on them.
Like no matter what you think, if you think that Iran did not have the advantage before the ceasefire, you're living in la la land. It doesn't matter how many of their ships or planes or buildings we destroy, they have economic leverage through the blocking of the Strait of Hormuz.
And what Trump and other people forget is that it's not economic leverage just for their near vicinity or the region of the Middle East. It's for the whole entire world. Like I believe it was over 30% of oil, or it's like either 30 or probably much higher, passes through the Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf. And so they got a stranglehold on the world economy because every country is dependent on oil. And already in the Philippines and several other countries, they're within days of running out of total oil. They're having their people walk to work in order to conserve oil. Like Europe is only a few weeks out of running from oil completely. And so that just shows the sheer desperation. We are cushioned, the United States, because we produce our own oil, but even we are at a certain disadvantage too. So that's something to advantage. This is a regime that's already killed thousands of its own people, so they don't really care if you bomb necessarily. I mean, of course they don't want that, but that's a price they're willing to pay. They know at the end they have a thing hanging over our head, which is economic control over the world.
You can't take that leverage away. We've tried 1,000 times. Doesn't mean that Iran won the war 100%, but they, like, as an outside objective observer.
And one more thing to note is that during this, the U.S. stopped sanctioning them, so they actually had full control of the strait, and they had no sanctions. So they were like actually making a good amount of money, even though we were blowing shit up. And they blew up all of our bases along the Persian Gulf. They're all destroyed, or at least mostly destroyed. They're all wrecked. One base, I believe in Bahrain, got so blown up that all the personnel had to leave in a hurry and just leave with a pack on their backs. So they've destroyed a lot of things. They've hit Dubai. All the Gulf states are very angry. Saudi Arabia is very angry. They're in the midst of might be pulling out the Live Golf Course negotiations that they had with Jared Kushner and Trump. Trump's not happy about that. But all of our allies in the region essentially are very pissed off and hate this war. And they hate that America plunged them into nearby chaos. And know that if stuff isn't settled soon with Iran, people are going to want to go visit Dubai if they know the hotel's going to be bombed any second.
They're winning 65, 70%, in that ballpark. So it makes no sense for the side that's winning and has more leverage to go, I surrender here, I'll give you everything you want. That doesn't make any sense. So that is not true. That is definitely not true.
Just Trump gloating and trying to hide the fact that he's been failing so far, or failing at achieving what his goals were, even though his goals were muddled.
So that only leaves me two options, John. One is Trump's going, we got everything, surrender, but in reality, we realize we lost and the oil markets and the stock market can't take this anymore. So we say,
And one more thing to note is that all the big oil execs, BP and Oil, all the Exxon Mobil, they all came to Trump a while ago and said, hey, you need to stop this or win it or find some situation that you can negotiate so we can get our stock prices back up. And Trump said, he'll see what he can do, but they're not happy. A lot of people aren't happy, including our allies in Europe.
Yeah, give us some enriched uranium out of the country, but mainly keep your program and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Don't charge a toll, and we're gone. And we'll give you a guarantee. We're not going to attack you. We can't give a guarantee with the lunatics in Israel, but we'll do our best and we'll leave you guys alone.
Ceasefire,
Don't forget,
right?
Noble Mobile saving you a ton of money. So a lot of people are signing up now and beginning to realize, what the hell? Why am I paying so much to Verizon and AT&T? So your bills, I switch. I prefer that route because I don't mind Trump lying as long as the war is over, nobody else gets killed and we come home. The third possibility is, I'm so clever. I told him we had another ceasefire, but then this weekend I'm going to attack them after the markets close. That is definitely possible. So which one is it between the last two? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because it really does feel like every time there's big talks coming, other than the Vance one, that's just a pretext for an attack. And so it could happen. That said, I have predicted, the invasion of Cargill and stuff before, and it hasn't happened. So I don't know. It's impossible to know.
John, before you go on, let me just add to that, right? So I predicted ground troops. So if they don't do the ground troops and they get to a peace deal, I'm thrilled to be wrong. Thrilled, right? So two more factors that are important here. I see online people who know military affairs, et cetera, and you don't know how much to trust them. They say every report they're getting from our troops is they're mobilizing. They're not standing still. They're not going backwards. They're mobilizing, right? So that's obviously super relevant. On the other hand, why the hell would the Iranians agree to open up the Strait of Hormuz if it's all a lie? Unless they got duped again. So, or unless they're restocking and there's reports out that they're buying extra drones and missiles from China as we speak. So just more.
Essentially, it's hard to take anyone's word in this situation, especially Trump, because he's already said, he's declared victory 6 times already and said, we've had ceasefire, we're negotiating, then more bombs drop, this happens, school of children gets blown up, a hospital, a 100-year-old university for public health gets blown up, power plants get blown up. He says he's going to wipe out civilization. Then he says he's negotiating with them, that they're coming to the White House, along Pakistan. So it's like none of it really makes sense. And for a lot of people, especially his base, the younger generation who voted for him, that was part of the diverse and broad coalition that got Trump back in the White House, they are very pissed off and they're not happy at all how things are going, especially when you can't take anyone's word. I mean, I know Trump has always been an exaggerator of the truth and has lied on certain situations, such as crowd sizes, in his inauguration and so on. But to constantly flip-flop back and forth and just lie constantly, making all of his supporters look like fools trying to defend him. And I supported him, before, and some of his policies I liked and I thought were good. But even those that he's doing, he just does all like half-ass and just like no one's gonna know his moves. And all of his supporters say, he's playing 4D chess. 4D chess, you won't know he's moving. Well, it's probably more likely he just doesn't know what he's doing as much. Like at the end of the day, who's to really say? But people don't like it when there's so much confusion, and the market doesn't like it either. But a lot of people aren't happy that he hasn't fulfilled many of his promises. He hasn't really made America great again, and he said there's a golden age upon us. Well, for most vast majority of Americans, it does not feel like that at all. The dollars continue to value. The stock market was doing great right before this, but our hegemony, the American empire around the world, is starting to crack. And when most of the people and of our own populace and the people around the world start to see that, the American empire is in a definite decline, that means something. That definitely means something. So, essentially that was it. I was just going to briefly talk about how Vance went on the East Coast, I believe, and did it as part of a Turning Point USA conference in a college stadium. And there was only like 30% capacity in that. I think I'll try to pull up the thing. There was only like 30% capacity, but essentially he was talking and he was getting heckled about trying to defend Trump, going after the Pope, and said the Pope should just stick to matters regarding morality and everything. And saying, he has nothing to do with war and everything like that. Well, how could you say that when war has to do with reality? And Trump was just bashing the Pope, like he bashes anyone that sort of critiques him. And it's not looking good, especially after Trump posted that AI image of him being Jesus, which he later backtracked and said that was just him being a doctor. But it's like, dude, come on. It's clear he has some sort of narcissistic megalomania going on, comparing himself to religious leaders and just being all over the place, essentially. So we'll see what's going to happen, but JD's trying to cover Trump's tracks, make him look good. He's the PR dude, but Trump's giving him a hell of a hard time to do that. Hell of a hard time. But anyways, thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to comment, subscribe. You You guys have a nice one. Peace.